You ever driven through a small prairie town really late at night? Everything's just still, kind of covered in this blanket of snow and silence. It's easy to think, nothing ever happens here. But every single quiet town has a story. And tonight, we're going to uncover one of them. Let's dive in to the history of Russell, Manitoba. This is exactly what I mean. Just take a look at Main Street in Russell. You can see the frost kind of clinging to the trees. The streetlights are casting these long, long shadows, and there's not a single soul in sight. It's so peaceful, it almost looks frozen in time. You can practically feel that crisp, cold air, can't you? And that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, if these old buildings and this frozen ground could actually talk, what stories would they tell? Well, we're about to peel back the layers of this town's history, starting from its very foundation all the way to the people who really gave it a soul. Okay, so every town has to start somewhere. For Russell, it began with the land itself, just a plot on a map, really, that would eventually grow into a community, shaped by things like the railway and, of course, that rich prairie soil. This timeline here, it really maps out the town's official journey pretty perfectly. You can see the whole evolution in just these 4 key moments. It all kicks off in 1881 as a surveyed site, basically a plan on paper. Then, by 1907, it's a village. A few years later, 1913, boom, it's a full-fledged town. And then, much more recently, in 2015, it joins up with its neighbors. It's just a story of steady, deliberate growth. Now, if you really want to understand a prairie town, you have got to understand the grain elevator. Seriously, it was the economic heartbeat of the whole community. The one they have in Russell today was actually built by Manitoba Pool back in 1974, and it literally rose from the ashes after a fire took down the old one. Talk about a symbol of resilience. And these names, they're a great reminder that the elevator wasn't just a building. It was a place full of people. I mean, look at this list. Lester Punch Lifer, Larry Burgess, R. Murray Haggard. These were the agents, the buyers. These were the actual faces of the town's most important industry, connecting all the local farmers to the rest of the world. So, we've got the land, and we've got the economy. But a town is really truly built by its people. And Russell, well, it became a home for this fascinating mix of settlers from all over the world, with every single group adding their own unique piece to its cultural mosaic. One of the earliest and honestly most unique groups were the Barnardo boys. These were teenage boys, part of what was called the British Home Children movement, sent over from institutions in the UK to start totally new lives here in Canada. And get this, Russell was home to an industrial farm specifically for them, a place where about 600 young men learned all the skills they'd need for a future out on the prairies. Then, starting right at the turn of the century, around 1899, Ukrainian pioneers began to arrive. They brought with them this incredibly deep commitment to their faith and their community. Now, it took them decades of hard work, but by 1941, they built their first church. It was a cornerstone for a community that would just continue to grow and thrive for generations to come. And here it is. This is the Church of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's so much more than just a building, you know? It's a physical legacy of that community's entire journey, a testament to their perseverance, their faith, and their absolute determination to build a home so far from their original one. And the cultural fabric gets even richer when you learn about the Bukovinian pioneers. These were settlers of both Romanian and Ukrainian heritage who came from a very specific historical region called Bukovina. They settled in the valleys and hills just outside of Russell, adding yet another distinct thread to the area's identity. So here's a really crucial point. For a lot of these early settlers, history wasn't something you read in a book. It was spoken. It was shared around a kitchen table, passed down from a parent to their child. This quote from the St. Elijah Pioneer Museum just captures it perfectly, the challenge and the vital importance of preserving these oral histories before they just fade away. But a community story isn't just about building things up. It's also about loss. And for Russell, like so many small towns, the first half of the 20th century brought a really profound and painful sacrifice. This image of Memorial Avenue, with all the flags lining the road, it really sets the tone. It speaks to a memory that is still very much alive in that community. A deep commitment to never, ever forget the cost of war. 88. When a Russell War Memorial was unveiled back in 1922, this is the number of names, local men, and one woman from the area that were carved into it. 88 lives lost in the First World War alone. Just think about that, from a small, tight-knit community. And just look at what that number actually represents.
It wasn't just soldiers, it was the town's fabric. Farmers, a lawyer, a bank clerk, a nurse, a high school teacher, a tailor. I mean, the war reached into every single home and every business. A loss like that, it changes a town forever.
So, after all of this, the settlement, the growth, the sacrifice, what is Russell today? All of these historical threads, they all weave together to create a legacy that continues to endure out there on the prairies. This chart gives us a great little snapshot of the town's journey over a whole century. You see, it starts with just under 700 people in 1921. Then it has this huge growth spurt through the post-war years, peaking at over 1,500 by 1971. And since then, it's held remarkably steady, showing a kind of resilience that, frankly, so many other small towns have really struggled to find. And that brings us to our final thought. The story of Russell, well, it's really the story of thousands of small communities, isn't it? It's a reminder that even the quietest places have these deep, complex, and absolutely vital histories. So the question it leaves us with is this: what are we doing to listen to those stories and to make sure they're still being told 100 years from now?